for my ISP project. What's your report on? My report is on running shoes. Can't believe this. No success. No success. Whoa! No, I have to go to Justin. Whoa, it's a disc about making shoes. Running shoes. Cool! Now school should have my house. Oh, yeah! Okay, let's turn on this TV. Now let's turn on this VCR. Okay, what the heck is this here for? Bat put it in, boy. Let's watch it.
I hear nothing about running shoes.
Yeah.
Well, watch.
One material, it can depend because they can make things. They can make shoes out of lots of different things now, but leather is the main thing you make out of it. Usually it's cow leather, and there are tanneries out there that use the leather and make it different colors. They might make it brown, they might make it white, they might make it red, and that combined with some synthetic things to decorate the shoe with, and metal for the eyelets and stuff like that. So mainly leather, but synthetics as well. The way it all starts is that usually you have a designer, and that starts with somebody who likes to draw and maybe goes to school for artistry or engineering or something like that, and they actually start to draw what they think would be a really interesting shoe. And before they start drawing, they try to figure out who it is they're trying to make a shoe for. Are they making it for a girl or a boy? Are they making it for a man or a woman? Is it a shoe that they're going to run in or going to play basketball in, or is it a shoe that they're going to be walking in? So depending on what that shoe is going to be used for, the designer will then design a shoe, and once they've designed the shoe, they will create something like this, Justin, which is, after they've designed it, we put it on the computer using special software so that they can spec out exactly the different pieces of the shoe and how big it's going to be. And then using the same computer, we can take every little piece of this shoe and we can make it into its own piece. So this, all these small pieces come together to make one shoe. Say a shoe like this. And when we cut out all these pieces with the factory, we work with the factory, and they make a cutting die, it's called, in this shape, so that if we put a piece of leather on the table and we put the cutting die over it and we press the cutting die through the leather, it'll cut out these pieces for us. Is the design stage where a designer will design it. And sometimes they get crazy and they try to make things that are really not practical shoe wear. So they'll design something, and then engineers will take that design and make sure it's something that the factory can replicate using these, they'll make these specific designs, and then we have product development people that will work with the factory to make sure that they decide the best way to put the shoe together. So a shoe like this might have 20 or 30 different pieces to it, and every piece gets cut out separately at the factory, and they decide the most efficient way for people to put those pieces together. And usually what they do is they stitch the top part of the shoe together first. This is called the upper. And and what they do is they start with something like this, Justin. This is called the last, because shoes come in all different sizes, right? So we build a shoe around a last, which is a form of the foot. This one happens to be size 6.5, and we will actually build the shoe around this last. So we'll take all these materials, stitch them together, and we'll wrap it around the top of the shoe. And then this is a similar shoe that's been cut in half, and then we'll add the bottom to the shoe. Now the bottom of the shoe, there's different pieces. You have the outsole, you have the midsole, and you have the insole. This stuff is made out of rubber or polyurethane, some type of synthetic. And foam, exactly. So it's very light, but also cushiony. And then you put the two together with, what do you think we use to put the two together?
Stitching.
Stitching and glue. Right. So what they do is they'll they'll press it all around this last, and they'll take the bottom part and they'll put glue around the last and they'll press it together. And a lot of times there's a machine that they put it into that presses it together, and then they put it into like a little oven, and it runs on a conveyor belt and goes right through an oven and gets heated, so the glue gets activated. And by the time it comes out the other side of the oven, and off of this conveyor belt, it might start out at size 5 and go all the way to size 13 or 14, and every half size as well. So there's a shoe, there's a last just like this. You can see it's got a number on it, so we have a list that if we want a 6.5 shoe, we go and look at our list and we can find this last, and we know if we build it around this shoe, it'll be that size. And we'll do it for every single size, and sometimes widths too, because some people have wider feet than others. So we might have some that are wide or extra wide. It depends. So the arch is right here, and some of the lasts are built to higher arch and a lower arch, or a wider toe base, something like that. That's a good question. I mean, when you're working in a factory, wherever you work, it's always, you got to be careful because you're using powerful equipment. And I would say that, and they have policies and procedures to follow to make sure that they're safe. Well, one of the things is when they're cutting out all these dies, so these dies are sharp. And what happens is there's a big press. So it looks sort of like this. You hit a button and it comes down just like this and presses down through the leather. And you know, it cuts out the piece. So what they do is, in order for that press to come down, you have to hit 2 buttons with your hands. So there's no way you can have your hand in there when it's coming down. So you position the leather here, and you position the dies where you want it, and then you have to hit 2 buttons and the thing comes down and cuts it open for you. But your hands have to be here in order for it to work. So that's the dangerous part, but they have rules in place to protect people from getting hurt. Well, after it's been designed and developed and all the specs are available to the factory, they also they make a couple of examples on what's called a sample run. They'll have a few really good people working in the factory, and they'll make one shoe and give it back to the company so we can look at it and say, oh, this looks perfect, this is exactly the way we want to make our shoe, so this is our model shoe, and we'll approve this shoe. And this will be what they're working off of, trying to make every single other shoe look exactly like this. So once they start, I would say that it probably takes a couple hours for the shoe to start from the very beginning, and then get stitched together, and then to apply everything that you need to for the outsole, and then to box it up and get ready to ship it. But during that couple of hours, they're probably making 2,000 pairs of shoes because they have so many people working.